Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 585. And beware, there's always a twist at the end. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
Are you guys twisting?
Just at the end.
Just at the end.
Just at the end.
You gotta save those twists for the end.
That's right. Well, Doctor Who is back on our screens after a shorter hiatus this time. And so this week we are reviewing the two episodes that dropped first, which are the Space Babies, or just Space Babies, and The Devil's Chord.
I feel like Space Baby should have an exclamation point at the end of it.
Space Baby!
Kind of like Kerblam,
Yeah.
but Space Babies.
Babies on a spaceship.
Space Babies. Ruby learns the Doctor's secrets when they encounter a bogeyman on a baby farm in the future.
I'll give this a bum.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun watching this one.
I'm the same. I think that's been my experience with Doctor Who since it's come back, and by that I mean Star Beast, is none of these have been just wow, blow my socks off, great, but they've all been a lot of fun, and I think that's the important thing about it.
They've got that camp level back to it that kind of disappeared during the Chibnall era, and that's what I think partially makes it so much fun, is that these ideas of space babies and a literal bogeyman on a space station is just so ridiculous and so out there, but it works in this context, and you just roll with it because you're having such a good time watching it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think from the get-go, they did a very phenomenal and concise job of giving a new viewer a 60-year crash course.
Mm-hmm.
Just the travels of time space. Okay, we're going to table that for a moment. Go back to this one again. Oh yeah, and then later, oh, 2 hearts. That's important. And just kind of dropping all this stuff in, and yet doing it conversationally and in terms of the plot. It always like that. And I was pretty amazed, because it's like, this is another pretty solid jump off point, which I think we knew was coming. But if you're looking to point people toward where do I start? Well, this is an okay one to jump on with, because you don't have to fear the canon.
I'd at least go back to Church on Ruby Road, so you have the Ruby Sunday stuff, backstory that you need. But I can see what you're saying. With Nshuti's Doctor's run, it's a good jumping on point.
Yeah. And while the sci-fi, the hard sci-fi fan in me was chafing a little bit at Space Babies, especially once they started talking, I was okay with it.
At least they gave us some sort of a quasi hard sci-fi explanation, even though it was a bit thin. They just didn't ignore it. They actually did try to give us some sort of explanation, and gave us a very good one for the monster in the basement.
Yeah.
And I like going back to what you were saying about put a pin in this, and the explanations and info dumps. I love how Ruby Sunday just rolls with it all and just goes, okay, we're going to come back to that later, and then remembers to come back to it, and just rolls with the flow throughout the whole time without ever getting freaked out. I think she is growing on me very quickly as a great companion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I didn't. We didn't. Did anybody go back and rewatch Church?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I was as the episode started, I was suddenly struck with this. Oh, maybe we should have recapped it. I mean, I know we just watched it at Christmas, but that was 5 months ago. So maybe I should have gone rewatch it. But Ruby just fell right back into companion mode, and pretty awesome companion at that. And so it was very easy to be right there with her step by step. And yep, okay, yeah, I'm good. Not that I won't go watch Church on Ruby Road again at some point, but yeah, no, it was good. It was really a solid opening episode for this, and I'll get into it a little bit later because I know there's been some fan cry out there over the new season, but just as a, you know, it's a pilot, guys, and you know the Doctor Who pilots, the first ones of the Doctor, they're always a little out there. You know, whether it's a tub of plastic goo in the basement under the London Eye, or you know, singing Santas, robot Santas. It's always a little out there. So Babies on a Space Station is not that great a leap, and everything else.
I wouldn't even bother defending it from those people. They're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it no matter what. They're not using that as an excuse. Not even worth my time. What I was really, really afraid of, and you kind of touched on this when you were talking kind of the opposite about how the information is being delivered for the newbies, which I think is great. What I was really afraid of going into this series, knowing that RTD was sort of doing a soft reboot. You could tell he was trying to get new people on board, resetting the episodes, doing the by regeneration. So I really kind of felt we were going to go into this first season and just kind of ignore everything for a while and just kind of build on the two characters. So I was quite surprised that they did give us all of the information they did, not in just this one, but in the other one, you know, linking all the way back. So it's really obvious that the showrunners and RTD aren't going to distance themselves for anything. They're sticking with the lore. They're sticking with what's come before. They're not ignoring it, and and in fact, they're embracing some of it, which is really, really surprising.
Yeah, they really seem to be leaning into the Timeless Child stuff, and I'm sure that's partially to make parallels between the Doctor and Ruby and their being adopted and all of that stuff. But the fact that he's not distancing himself from probably one of the most controversial things that Doctor Who has done recently, I applaud him for. I think it's great. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that he is continuing to, as you say, Glenn, that he's not burying anything. That, nope, it's all canon. We're all still going to talk about it. And while my own personal jury is still out on Timeless Child, because I really was not a fan of that story, the fact that they're just hitting it head on. Yeah, I'm an orphan, and this is what it's like. Okay, I mean, if it's going to be there, we might as well talk about it. So, yeah.
We don't want another half human on my mother's side and just ignore it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether you like it or not, it's now part of the show canon, and we're sticking with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really paramount in my mind. Is you may do something I don't like, but if you're going to double down on it in a way that still makes sense for the show versus. Just, okay, we're not going to talk about it. What happened to the midichlorians? Well, we don't talk about that.
Don't redesign and introduce new Daleks and then never use them again.
Right.
Yeah, what happened with that? Don't show me a duck pond in episode 4 and then never talk about it again.
A whole lot of effort went into makeup for a particular joke at the very beginning of this. And I was really surprised that there wasn't more to it, considering she probably had to sit in makeup for 8 hours just to do that clip.
That was great.
It was great. It was really, really, really good.
Well, and that's the sort of thing that makes me like Ruby, is she's worried about those sort of things and then still goes out and does the thing that she's worried about on accident. Right. Well, what if a house happens? Where are you going to step on a butterfly? Who steps on butterflies? And then she goes out and does it, and the Doctor's reaction to all of that was just great.
Okay, so do we think this was a throwaway joke?
Yeah.
Just to kind of, again, maybe for the benefit of the newbies, to kind of establish that don't get your panties in a twist. It's not that kind of show. You don't have to worry about us changing history.
That might have been.
It does that
of a larger possible through line narrative with all of the other changes that have kind of come down the pipe, with things being a little more fanciful, with these elemental forces from outside the universe now wreaking havoc. Is that maybe part of it? Because he seemed genuinely shocked that A, it could happen, and B, that it happened the way she described it. And he makes the throwaway line about, oh, the butterfly compensator didn't have that on. But I don't think that's a real thing. I think that was for her benefit.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's, as you stated first, I think it's a way to kind of signal to new people that, hey, don't take, or even longtime fans, hey, don't take all this too seriously. We're going to have some fun with it. And I think that's what it was. I would be surprised. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, but I'd be very, very surprised if this was the beginning of some sort of through thread for anything, but I could be wrong.
I think it kind of did both at the same time. It felt like, yeah, it's a throwaway. Don't get too hung up on these nuances, but it then also still showed that yes, time can change and can be changed back. Kind of like we see in the next episode, we see the future changed and then changed back. So it feels like it's doing both of, yeah, we can do this and we can have fun, but it's also there can be ramifications if something does significantly change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was really hoping for a Mavity reference, but
I'm a little surprised neither of these two had a Mavity.
Yeah. Didn't get there with that one.
So in the course of the last week, I've been watching them make the rounds on some of mostly the British shows, but they were on the on Good Morning America here in the United States too. And I saw the other day they actually went to Disneyland just a few days ago. So they're making the tour, promoting the show. But in one of the things I read, apparently they were never let in on the Mavity joke until this pest tour. And so neither one of them had any idea why the lines from Mavity. So when it's revealed to them while they're on this press thing, they're like, "Oh, really? We didn't even know that." So they just learned on this press tour why that was
they have
Mavity.
Not gone back and watched those episodes.
I don't think about it, man. I just read what they hand me.
It's just a weird Doctor Who thing. What do I know?
So I thought that was kind of funny.
Has it not always been Mavity? Did you see all of the? We talked a little bit about the Disney influence. Did you see all the press that they did? They had a TARDIS in the parks.
Yeah.
They had the Doctor Who banner up on all of the at Disney Studios. The outside. "Quote unquote" sound stages in the park where it's they've got the posters up there, and I mean it was a full court press on the promotional stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I told Mel, I said, we kind of joked about this previously with from going from the wilderness years where there was nothing and latching on to anyone who had even heard of this show to walking into Hot Topic and seeing merchandise. I can't even fathom being at Disney World and turning the corner in the park and having a police box sit there. That's just crazy. I mean, it's a level of crazy that not in my lifetime.
Even the height of Tennant and Smith, there wasn't that.
I never ever would have expected this show to hit like this. Ever. And I mean, it's all promotional gimmick. I get it, but it's just insane.
Well, anything else on this one, or should we move on and talk about Devil's Chord?
I know it's a crass joke, but when they reveal what the boogie monster actually was, I don't think I've laughed that much at a TV show in a while. That really got a very, very strong laugh out of me. More so than anything else in the episode so far.
What made it even funnier is the Doctor's reaction to it. That he was laughing so hard at her And okay,
Yeah, well,
maybe
yeah,
it's a
because
little
she got some honor.
mean-spirited, maybe it's a little mean-spirited because it just, 5 minutes earlier, he was queuing up the boogie monster and scaring the kids and laughing. But it's just, partially tongue-in-cheek hiding behind the sofa and just, ha ha, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Boo, it's that level of, playing peekaboo with the kids or something. But when he's laughing at her and, it's so much worse. I've been from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen everything there is to see. This is the worst thing ever. And then she realizes it, and then he starts laughing. I mean, it's right up there with Sarah Jane stuck in the vent.
Yeah.
And the fourth Doctor just grins, but he's having fun with it. And that if you weren't sold on Ncuti at this point, you should by now because of that. So much fun there.
Yeah. And I also like how earlier when he's talking to the space babies that, they're talking, he tells them about how everyone is important and there's no one else like them. That is such a continuation of the Doctor's personality and his point of view that I'm glad that they're still continuing to build that and send that message out in the world.
Yeah. And I liked it's a bit of a trope in that we have a machine taking things literally, but I liked the structure of that it made literal sense for it to be doing the things that it was doing, and that it wasn't just a monster in the basement.
It gives us a simple yet effective explanation without having to go into too much technobabble.
Yeah.
Makes me worry about AI in the future creating boogeyman.
You should be worried. And of course, we had to get a fart joke at the end.
A what?
Oh, yeah.
A what?
I had to get a fart joke at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a bit much, but I allowed it because the rest of the episode was so much fun.
So when we bring in the Slovene back, Glenn.
No, thank you. Well, let's talk.
This joke has served a purpose.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Devil's Chord.
The Doctor and Ruby meet the Beatles, but end up battling the all-powerful Maestro.
Is it too early to say best episode of the season?
It is so far. I would not. I wouldn't disagree with you.
It's amazing the tonal shift between the two of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This was I read there was an article, an interview with RTD, and he talked a little bit about the Beatles. And, they're such a British institution, and Doctor Who's a British institution, and this totally should have happened before now, but we could never afford the rights. We couldn't get any music. There was just no logistical way of doing it. We tried. And then all of a sudden it came to him. That's how you do it. You go around the music. There is no music, and that's why you can make it work. And he says once he unlocked that bit, everything just kind of fell together with the episode. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's just brilliant to do it that way, with one caveat. And that's the very end, the chord that sends Maestro back to whence they came needed to be the one at the end of
A Day in the Life.
Yeah. It needed to be this big, epic power chord, boing, the one that everybody knows. That would have been it. That would have been the pinnacle of epic right there.
I had as many people arguing that it should have been the opening chord for A Hard Day's Night, because that also has a trichord.
That really just the Beatles chord.
Yeah. I can see that as well.
Yeah, no, I
think Day in the Life is better.
Yeah, I agree. I went with Day in the Life as well. In fact, when they played it, my first thought was, oh, that's not quite it, but maybe it's close. And then I went and listened. And I was like, I think they're trying to get there. I think they're changing one single note so that they don't get sued. Because it's close.
Which is really kind of odd considering, and again, maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but, Disney seems to have a pretty good relationship with the Beatles at this point, with all of the material that they've put up there. Surely they could have just asked, we'd like to do this.
It's kind of funny. Well, I'm sure the Beatles still would have made them pay out the ears for it, but I kind of thought the same thing. I thought, well, I've been very adamant to say everybody back off on Disney, because yes, they're putting money into this, but they're not putting any money, or they're not putting a lot of influence in it. They're kind of seeing where it goes. And then this came along and I thought, oh, Disney, why didn't you use some of your influence and at least get us some Beatles music in this thing? No, Sean, I agree. I think out of necessity, the way that it's played out with the absence of music, I think it works for the story and it makes the story work. It's still a little hard for me to see anything Beatles without any Beatles connection. And I think maybe I'm the same way, that I kind of feel like they could have at least gone there for that chord, because it's so close. But yeah, it's just, my favorite thing about this is Jinx Monsoon as the maestro. Oh my gosh.
They are so creepy in that role.
They did such a good job in this. I could not believe. And now, Caitlin's been a fan for a long time because she watches RuPaul's Drag Race, and they had been a contestant on there. In fact, I think they were a winner for one of the seasons.
They are a 2-time winner.
Yeah,
they won one of the seasons and then won the All-Star Greatest Hits, whatever it was, when they bring back previous champions.
So she was already familiar enough with their performance, but that was just, I was blown away. I would love to see the maestro back, even though it's pretty clear that the maestro is also not the big bad that we're leading up to. But yeah, I'd like to see them back.
But as the twist at the end showed,
the Harbinger's still around.
The Harbinger's still there. Henry
Arbinger.
Well, and done in such a way that everything the maestro did was top shelf creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Climbing out of pianos.
The way that their hands were on the lid. And
just, very spider-like. And this if this was a horror film, all you would have to do is change the incidental music and maybe the lighting, and you'd be there with this thing coming out of the back of it's just
this Bette Midler / Pennywise.
Oh my God, that's totally it. Yes. If Pennywise looked like Bette Midler, oh yeah, that's the level of terror that's right there. But the yes, it's over the top from a performance standpoint, but honestly, it's right there toe to toe with Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker. And,
yeah, for sure.
So it brings that, and then
you mean Daddy?
Shudy's, yeah, and then Shudy's performance where he's I can't fight this. You get one trick against the gods, and to flat out say the gods, and that's the level of this elemental force that has shown up.
Mm-hmm.
But forever and always, the greatest scene is the use of the sonic in a sonic sense.
To dampen all sound.
To dampen it. So well done. Thank you, RTD. But then Jinx's performance on the flip side of that, where they're mildly bemused and puzzled and actually a little in awe and admiration of this trick.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bit with the tuning fork and the puddle.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got just goosebumps, chills through that whole bit. It was done so well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still riding high off of that. And oh, by the way, the Beatles were in it,
Which, I hear the people complaining about how they could have got actors that, looked more like him. I hear the complaints. I didn't care. I thought it was just fine. The Ian, what's his name? Ian, who's got plays Churchill? He doesn't look Ian McNeice. He does not look a lick like Churchill in any way whatsoever. But I always buy him as Churchill, and I thought these guys did a fine job, especially for that age of Paul and John.
Considering they're barely in it too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're glorified cameos more than anything else.
Well, and you know who did knock my socks off was George Martin.
Yeah.
That guy looked like George Martin.
Yeah, young George Martin, you bet.
Well, I think he came in and I was like, was that his kid?
I think the guy...
Was that Giles?
I think the gal playing Seal of Black looked like Seal of Black, too.
Yeah. Has anybody watched the documentary on Disney Plus, If These Walls Could Sing?
Mm-mm.
It's a documentary by Paul McCartney's daughter, all about Abbey Road Studios. And so, of course, it's very Beatles heavy. But it's just fascinating. And, there's a lot of talking head interviews where she interviews other bands that recorded there and just the legacy of some of the albums that have come out of there. But they go through all of the areas. This is the recording booth where we did this, and this is the grand room where the orchestras come into play. This is where John Williams conducted Star Wars. This is where, and then Paul talks about the piano. And so as this episode was going, and they're like, well, here they are, and this is the rehearsing room. And I'm like, yep. And then we go down the hall to the orchestra room, and I'm like, yep. And here's the piano. And I'm like, I've seen all this stuff for real on the documentary. It made me wonder if they shot on location.
That's what I was just about to ask.
Well, they were.
I haven't watched any of the behind the scenes or anything.
They were literally outside EMI. I can't imagine why they wouldn't have shot inside too.
Right.
Or actually, it's Abbey Road now, but
it's Abbey Road now.
What was EMI at the time?
And they changed, of course. I'm really curious to know how they did the crosswalk, because the crosswalk now does not look like the crosswalk did then. But when they crossed it, it looked like it would have in '63. And whoever owns that Volkswagen must own the house over there, because it was still parked on the street.
I don't think it was the same one. I think they brought that in special.
This was such a good episode. And I loved the doctor's reaction. He's okay, anytime, anywhere, time, space. What do you want to do? 1963. I want to see the Beatles record their first album. And the look he gives her, which you almost think, what, is that taboo? Should I not have done that? And then he just loses it. Nobody has ever said that. Why have I never done this before? Everybody goes, I want to go to Mars. I mean, just
Titanic,
Yeah, this is what you do. And I'm like,
Would have been my first pick.
You won me over again. If you're not on board yet, you should be.
Did you guys also catch that when they went back to the future to see the devastation, that she mentioned it was like June?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said, "What's it been?" He said, "What's it been?" He said, "What would it be now, June or July?" He makes that mention, which
that gives a big gap for traveling.
That's it. It just implies that there's been, at least between Ruby Road and Space Babies, yeah. But except for Space Babies,
picks up right after.
So there, it must be between.
Oh, and they go back to Christmas.
Yeah, at the very end.
Yeah,
they go back for Christmas
when they go home. So what happened between those two?
Well, I did see
be all those novels that are coming out.
I did see a post from Big Finish that says, and it showed a picture of I don't remember what the GIF was, but somebody having this realization, and it says, when you realize that, or when Doctor Who naturally opens up the space for more stories.
That was exactly what I thought of. Well, and Titan has their line of comics, and those novelizations that are coming out, or novels that are coming out.
It's the gif of the guy hiding behind the tree, rubbing his hands together, right?
What did you guys think of the musical number at the end?
I don't have a problem with it being there. I think it was kind of a fun bit of whimsical. It wasn't a very good song.
Yeah, it wasn't nowhere near as good as the Goblin song.
Yeah, so
it was better than I've Got a Dog.
It's true.
And
I saw headlines that Doctor Who's musical episode should have taken more notes from. No, you missed the point of this episode if you thought this was going to be a musical episode.
Right.
There wasn't music here. That's the problem.
Well, and I think that honestly, I think a lot of people have missed the point. I mean, I know Glenn's like, don't bother arguing with the complainers, but the whole, I missed where's the science fiction in my science fiction show? It's so much fantasy elements. And I was like, were you not paying attention when they did the Edge of the Universe thing and Tennant said, what have I allowed in? It's been fantasy heavy since that moment. Mm-hmm. And certainly with the minions of the toy maker, that this is going to be a whimsical fantasy time frame until they get the story arc wrapped up. So that's not surprising to me at all. And the song and dance number at the end, I can totally headcanon that as, if music suddenly rushed back into the world after being gone from 1920, whatever it was when the maestro first showed up, this is probably just a bleed over. That if they, as they say, we use music to express our emotions and to get us through these things, and all of a sudden it was back. This was just a spontaneous eruption into song, and everybody was on board with it. I can write that off. That's not a big deal. It was fun.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the argument that some of the maestro's, world is still just as they did with the Giggle. Some of the maestro's world is still sort of lingering around, enough residual energy from that could create something like that as well. So
I think the biggest takeaway for me so far for these two episodes is just the sheer joy of exploring. Mm-hmm. It's been a really long time, it feels like, since we've had this level of seeing something new through your eyes. And the silliness that they play off each other when, what about my clothes? Oh, I've got a whole wardrobe. And, it's the 60s. I want a mini skirt. I want a beehive. I've got wigs. And just pure unadulterated joy at going out and doing things. It's been a while.
And seeing that great friendship of two people just enjoying each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, have you guys been seeing any of the speculation on the fact that the trickster from Sarah Jane Adventures could be our big bad?
Well, I did notice that he hypothesized about the Pantheon of Discord.
Yeah, so that's what Russell T. Davis said. That he also used the word gods of chaos, which is the same thing. Pantheon of Discord translates to gods of chaos. And so a lot of people have speculated that, because the trickster was part of the Pantheon, that he may be the big bag that's coming back. And I almost fell for this, but somebody had cut a clip out of the Sarah Jane Adventure where they go back in time when she's young, and it's 1963, and it's the trickster episode, and there's somebody walking by with a transistor radio, and they're carrying it, and you hear the song, the Beatles' Dog song. on it, and I was like, "Are you kidding? Has he been playing the long game?" And then I was like, "No, that can't be right." So I had to go back and look, and I found a clip that didn't have it. Somebody had cleverly cut it in there. But I thought, "Oh my god, if he'd been playing the long game on that, that would have been amazing." Then I thought, no, because he had no desire to come back to Doctor Who until just about a year or two ago. So
I don't believe that the Trickster will be the ultimate big bad. I bet he's just another member of the Pantheon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I think
There's
at the
not
least
just one person in the Gods of Chaos.
Yeah,
There's
I think
gods. It's not God.
I think at the very least, they may make a mention of him, but I don't imagine they would pull. I mean, that would be quite a pull, and maybe that would be the launching part to get the Sarah Jane back catalog on Disney Plus.
Yeah. And Ronnie, her own show.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing.
And all the talk of spin-offs.
Mm-hmm. What else on this one? Just for me, true. Space Baby's good. This one, phenomenal. Just knocking it out of the park, I think. I say phenomenal. I don't think it was the best. I agree with you that it's the best this season. However, I don't know that it's even going to be up there with me as far as top tier all-time Doctor Who. But this was really, really good. It was very, very enjoyable, and I think they're doing good things with the series so far.
I think I would agree.
I agree with you now, but I hold out on the caveat that I think Devil's Chord will become a classic at some point. I think maybe we're just a little too raw, too new on it. But I think down the road, when the top 10 lists, inevitably show up and people are, okay, rank your episodes, and Heaven Sent's up there, and this is up there, blah, blah, blah. I think you might start seeing Devil's Chord creep into that top 10.
I think it definitely will reach the top of Shooty's list of his best episodes.
Space Babies probably will not.
No. But it was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun.
I don't know. It's one that I probably would pop in to make me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those feel good, popcorn comfort episodes. Whereas this one is a bit more. If I want a stronger, more solid, more depth, more just a more episode, I'd pop this in instead.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want popcorn, it'd be Space Babies.
Yeah, I mean, you have those. You just don't feel like Genesis of the Daleks every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in the mood for dinosaurs on a spaceship, and so you just it becomes that palate cleanser before you move on to something else.
Space Babies is a summer movie, a summer blockbuster, and The Devil's Chord is a winter Oscar bait film.
I can see that.
Yeah. Well, next week we got Stephen Moffat's penned episode, so we'll see how that goes.
Boom.
I think it's going to be fear. I think it's going to be.
Are you dropping the mic?
I think to answer our question from a few weeks ago, I think it's a fear of landmines.
I'm going to go literal. I'm going to say boom mics.
Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up next is Stephen Moffat's penned Boom.
Good job.
Thank you. I have one job on this show. No, I mean, Doctor Who's back on, so of course that's where we'll be.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious.
We're covering the upcoming episodes as they come out, so stick with us.
And if you get
your
any
homework
value
for next week is to watch the show.
And if you get any value out of this podcast, why not consider putting some value back into it? You can do that by clicking on our Patreon link. Consider supporting us there. Also, please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to the podcast and join in the conversation on our listen forum on Facebook. Let us know what you thought of these episodes. Anything else we need to touch on before we close this? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Direction point! Direction point!
A Doctor Who podcast network.